I'm Marlene Hayes, 66, retired florist, guardian of Mom's heirloom seed packets in Asheville. One offhand remark at that gilded gala unraveled a decade of curated illusions. Stay locked in, the final detonation is still loading. Like,
Subscribe.
bell on. More stories. More power. Every week. The vaulted ceiling of Victoria's mountain chateau soared like a cathedral, skylights dripping moonlight onto a table longer than my old greenhouse. I balanced on a silk-cushioned throne, napkin sculpted into a blooming orchid, surrounded by 16 strangers in bespoke linen. Victoria, my daughter, my only seedling, glided among them in emerald velvet, emeralds winking at her ears. She introduced me with a dazzling grin. Meet Mom. She still thinks Alexa is a neighbor. Tittering laughter. I swallowed rust. The feast unfolded like a Michelin manifesto. Kobe beef massaged daily, truffles foraged by moonlight, and the evening's crown jewel, Hennessy XO, sourced from a Parisian diplomat's private vault. Victoria's husband, Landon, stood with the swagger of a sommelier king. Fewer than 50 casks remain, he declared, decanting the caramel liquid with cinematic flair. He narrated vanilla, spice, and whispers of history while I sipped. Tasted like the $42 bottle I grab at Ingles when the garden club meets. Attempting to bloom into the chatter, I smiled. Spotted a twin to this at the outlet mall last week, marked down to $75. Lighthearted, folksy. The air crystallized. Landon's cheeks blazed. Victoria's spoon pinged crystal. A woman in sapphires inhaled her wine. Landon recovered, voice honeyed venom. This is an heirloom blend, Marlene. Not sold to walk-ins. Translation: not for dirt-under-the-nails grandmas. Dinner limped forward in sub-zero hush. I rearranged microgreens while side-eyes sharpened. Victoria stared through me. Landon topped every glass but mine. By the time the gold-leafed panna cotta arrived, I felt microscopic. Post-dessert, Victoria tilted her chin. I trailed her past framed headlines. Landon with governors, Victoria on non-profit thrones, into his lair. Walnut panels, cigar haze, intimidation bottled. Door sealed with a velvet thud. Mom, she hissed, eyes glittering like cracked ice. You humiliated Landon. Apologize.
Now.
I blinked. For what, comparing prices? Her laugh was surgical. You embarrass me in front of people who matter. Fix it or leave. The ultimatum landed like a frostbite. I saw the boy crazy teen-eyed driven to prom, the bride I'd pinned wildflowers into, now wielding exile like a designer clutch. Fear flickered, losing her, the grandkids, Sunday suppers. Then fury bloomed hotter. I'd raised her on honesty, soil, and second chances, not this brittle pageant. Fine, I said, voice steady as river stone. I'll apologize. My way. Her shoulders loosened. She thought she'd won. She didn't see the storm seeding. Back in the dining hall, conversation hushed the instant I crossed the threshold. Forks froze. Champagne bubbles paused mid-rise. Victoria sat regal at the head, dabbing a lace handkerchief to dry theatrical tears. Landon loomed beside her, hand possessive on her chair. I walked the table's length, heels silent on Persian silk, until I stood before them. Every gaze pinned me like a specimen. I inhaled the scent of money and fear, then spoke, clear enough for the chandelier to echo.
Victoria, Landon, I'm sorry.
A collective exhale. Victoria's lips curved in triumph. I continued. Sorry you believe rarity is measured in dollars. Sorry you parade labels to feel tall. And sorriest that my daughter forgot the woman who taught her daisies outshine diamonds. Gasps ricocheted. A man choked on cognac. Landon's face cycled crimson to corpse. Victoria's handkerchief fluttered to the floor like a white flag. I wasn't done. Real wealth, I said, is the dirt under your nails after planting hope, the laugh lines from bedtime stories, the casserole dropped at a sick.
Nybor's door.
Not this. I swept an arm across the table. Parade of peacocks too busy preening to notice the sky falling. Silence thick enough to pot a seedling. Then, miracle, A silver-haired woman at the far end clapped once, slow. Another joined. A ripple of applause swelled, awkward, then defiant. Victoria's friends stared at their plates. Landon's investors shifted uncomfortably. The emperor stood naked, and the room finally saw.
Victoria voultida preit, chair scrapping.
Get out. Voice splintered. I met her eyes, my eyes, 30 years younger.
Gladly.
But first, I pulled a tiny burlap pouch from my purse, spilled Mom's wildflower seeds across the pristine linen. Something real to grow on. I turned, walked out past stunned faces, past the butler frozen mid-bow. The night air hit like baptism. Behind me, the chateau doors slammed, but I heard muffled chaos, raised voices, a glass shattering, someone laughing in disbelief. 2 days later, my phone buzzed at dawn.
Victoria.
I braced for war. Instead, a broken whisper. Mom, can you come? I drove the winding blue ridge, heart thumping. The gates stood open, unguarded. Inside, the dining table was bare, seeds gone, crystal vanished. Victoria sat on the bottom stair in yoga pants, mascara rivers down her cheeks. Landon's suitcase gaped by the door. He left, she croaked. Took the cognac, the watch collection, the offshore accounts. The diplomat's vault was a storage unit in Charlotte. The beef was choice, not Kobe. Everything, she dissolved. I sat beside her, wrapped her like I did when nightmares struck at 7. Breathe, baby. Over coffee in my tiny kitchen, chipped mugs, no skylights, she spilled. Landon had been leasing the chateau, faking the fortune, using her trust fund as collateral. The investors were marks in a Ponzi. When my truth bomb cracked the facade, panic selling began. The house of cards collapsed by breakfast. Victoria stayed a month. We planted Mom's seeds in my backyard, cosmos, zinnias, black-eyed Susans. She learned to weed, to wait, to trust dirt over dazzle. The grandkids arrived weekends, muddy knees and honest giggles. Landon's lawyer sent papers. Victoria signed nothing, hired a pit bull attorney instead. She sold the emerald gown on eBay. Proceeds funded a community greenhouse downtown. One evening, sunset painting the ridges gold, Victoria handed me a jar of honey from our first hive. Real vintage. She grinned, eyes bright, no filters. $0, infinite worth. I laughed until I cried. The seeds had taken root. Ladies, never apologize for being the wildflower in a room of plastic orchids. Truth is the ultimate luxury, non-negotiable, timeless, and it always blooms. Comment your I planted my truth moment. Like if roots, runways. Subscribe, your garden is non-negotiable. ***.